You guys might know about this, but I'm jumping on the train late. Maybe 2032, an asteroid is supposed to come into our atmosphere or hit the Earth. Is this stars falling from the sky? Is this a sign? Welcome to the last dispensation. You're living in it. Okay. I know nothing about this. Absolutely nothing. Ed Goebel, some of you guys might know him. He's going to be publishing a book soon. I had him on the program a few times. About a book about Joseph Smith's translation of all that debacle with the Kirtland Egyptian papers. Thank you. Thank you, producer, that sits over there in the old rocking chair with his cigar this big. But let's watch it and let's talk about it. What's going on? This is crazy amazing.
We're going to discuss some of the recent updates about that potentially dangerous asteroid that might collide with planet Earth in 2032. The asteroid you see simulated right here. This is from NASA, and you can find this website in the description, and the asteroid that was only discovered just over a month ago, in December of 2024. But in the last few days, we received a few updates about this asteroid, while also learning about its potential risks, and even getting some of the first images. And so let's discuss this in a little bit more detail, starting of course with a very brief overview of what we know so far. Here's actually what its orbit kind of looks like if you were to simulate this using this NASA visualization. And well, here, if we actually keep running this, around 2032, you'll notice that it's sort of approaching really close to where planet Earth is, roughly around December of 2032. So somewhere right here, it essentially has a slight chance of hitting the planet. But the thing is, even as you can see from this simulation, the chance here is still pretty low. As a matter of fact, there's a much higher chance it's just going to pass somewhere between planet Earth and the moon.
Okay, but see, that's my thingamabob. That's my ideas. But that makes you wonder, if it's not going to hit the Earth, but could the tail of this asteroid, do they have tails? Do asteroids have tails, or is that just a comet? I don't know. Or all the debris that's involved, or maybe when we try to shoot it down, do we have that ability to do that? In other words, are there going to be pieces of this hitting the Earth that's scheduled to be here during the same time that the Talmud, I just had a guest on, you guys got to go watch this video with the Messianic Jew. Well, he doesn't call himself a Messianic Jew. He calls himself a Nazarene. But this guy's amazing. Go watch it. I'll leave the link to his. But he says something is going to happen in 2030. What's going to happen in maybe this will be here in 2030. We just don't know. Or what do you guys think? Is this a way that, are these the signs of the times? Let's read for a minute. Let's watch the rest of this and then read some scripture on this.
And well, initially, when we actually talked about this a few weeks back, the odds of collision were approximately 1 in 80, which automatically made this the most dangerous asteroid known to us, placing it as 3 on what's known as the Torino scale, basically a chance of collision over 1%, and the asteroid at least 20 meters in size. But there was a huge uncertainty region, as you can see right here, which meant that additional observations had to be done, and done quick. And that's because by April of 2025, this asteroid is going to be behind the sun, and it's going to be almost impossible to see it until its return in 2028. And so in order to estimate a much more precise orbit, researchers focused on two things. First was obviously additional observations, but the second was what's known as pre-detections. Basically relying on previous observations from as far back as 2016, trying to see if some of the previous telescopes detected this as well, thus allowing scientists to calculate a much more accurate orbit. And strangely enough, a lot of previous images did not really contain anything. For example, the 2016 search of the Subaru telescope data seemed to contain nothing. And that was actually a bad thing, because these non-detections kind of suggested that maybe the chance of collision was even a little bit higher. But at the same time, the Gemini South telescope, an extremely powerful optical telescope in Chile, was actually able to detect this using long exposure by focusing on the specific range of wavelengths known as the red band, and the long exposure lasting over 12,000 seconds, which basically revealed this. These are some of the most recent images of this asteroid captured in optical light. And here the scientists tracked its motion, allowing them to create a new estimate, which has now been updated on that NASA website I mentioned previously.
I will leave the link to this, but there's a part I want to jump to, and it's because the other two parts are new images and what we know, and then properties discovered so far. Okay, scientific stuff. which I like scientific sometimes, but this is more numbers and statistics, which are interesting as well to me, but not right now. But let's talk about what if it collides with the moon? Could possibly collide with the moon. We're going to get back to this video. It's not that long. Matthew 24:29 through 31. Here's some scriptures that talk about the heavens and stars falling. Matthew 24. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened. Now, we're going to talk about it hitting the sun here in a minute. Or he just talked about it being maybe behind the sun. I don't know if that's relevant. Maybe not. Maybe so. But the sun will be darkened. Will it be darkened because of debris? Will it be darkened because of smoke, billowing smoke? Why will the sun be darkened? But there will be a reason. Let me go on. And this is Matthew 24:29 through 31. And the moon will not give its light. I just talked about, we're going to watch something about it maybe colliding with the moon. The stars will fall from the sky and the powers of heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the nations of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. Mark 13:24 through 25. But in those days, following that distress, the sun will be darkened, the moon not give its light, the stars will fall from the skies, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. What are heavenly bodies? Other planets, asteroids. At that time, people will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of great glory. Once again, could that be around 2030 something? We're just having fun, folks. Luke 21:25 through 26. There will be signs in the sun and moon and stars. On earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Interesting gravitational pull going on there, right? Could the asteroid hit the earth and go into the sea? People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Revelation 6:12 through 13. And that could mean something completely different. It could be some supernatural shaking of the heavens. Maybe the Lord shaking the heavens and the other heavenly bodies. I watched as he opened the sixth seal. This is Revelation 6:12 through 13. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned back like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. Isaiah 34:4. All the stars of heaven will be dissolved. The skies will be rolled up like a scroll, and all their stars will fall like withered leaves from the vine, like foliage from the fig tree. Interesting. We talk about the skies being rolled up like a scroll, almost like I believe that God's going to use the heavens as a monitor for us to see certain things that we need to see. And then finally, Joel, and I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth. Wonders, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness. That's important. And the moon to blood red. That's also important. You see it a lot. And the coming of the great awesome day of the Lord. Let's go to what if it collides with the moon.
If it does hit planet Earth. Going back to this image, you can see that it's actually very similar to the size of Tunguska meteor. And so in worst case scenario, if it does hit the planet, it will either produce an extremely powerful explosion somewhere along the line you see right here, or leave behind a formation very similar to the famous Behringer crater or just meteor crater in Arizona. Here we're talking about a relatively large formation resulting from an explosion at least 300 times as powerful as the Hiroshima atomic bomb. So essentially this would be a very powerful localized event. It would not affect the whole planet, but it can still cause a lot of damage on the ground. Nevertheless, despite of this, even though there's 1 in 38 chance of a potential collision, the most likely outcome is what I showed you previously. Basically, a passage somewhere between planet Earth and the Moon at a distance of approximately 200,000 kilometers from planet Earth. Which is why most scientists are not panicking about this, because usually these predictions are pretty accurate. But more intriguingly, there's even a chance of a collision with the Moon. But right now this chance is only 0.3%. And the thing is, if this collides with the moon,
0.3. Well, that ain't happening. 0.3. Did he say 0.3%?
collision with the moon. But right now this chance is only 0.3%. And the thing is, if this collides with the moon, since the moon has no atmosphere, this will be a much more powerful explosion. As a matter of fact, it will be powerful enough to potentially be visible from planet Earth, assuming you look at the moon through binoculars. It's unlikely to be seen with the naked eye, just because the moon is actually pretty bright. And if it does impact the moon, it's going to create a crater at least 500 meters across, up to about 2 kilometers across. Much bigger than anything it would leave on Earth. But a lunar collision would not be dangerous to us at all, even if there are fragments produced. All of these fragments would be too tiny and would basically burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. But here a lot of things would also depend on what exactly this asteroid is made out of. Right now it's actually assumed to be either S-type, or maybe L-type or K-type, or essentially a stony asteroid. Which also means that it's most likely going to break apart completely in the Earth's atmosphere.
That's the universe's kidney stones right there.
And is actually even unlikely to create an impact crater or even a tsunami if it hits the ocean. In other words, it's actually a lot more likely to create an airburst and to explode in the upper atmosphere. And these airbursts have actually been observed quite a lot in the last few decades. These are known as bolide events, and they do happen quite frequently, but we unfortunately never see most of them because they're usually in remote locations. Although here, because this is such a large asteroid, this bolide event is expected to be similar to Tunguska.
Which kind of shows you that the Lord watches over us. He's not allowed. I mean, it could easily. There's so much space on this earth. I know there's a little side note, but people are concentrated in very, 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 very small parts of cities and towns and things. There's more space. So when they say there's not enough room on the planet, not enough resources, hogwash. We have enough resources and money for everyone to live like Dubai. I kid you not. This is just evil billionaire trillionaires hoarding. We live on that planet. So the world after this, the millennium, will be a very nice place.
A huge explosion, very likely affecting hundreds of kilometers. But honestly though, pretty much everything right now is just speculation. Mostly because we don't have enough observations yet, and because a lot of negative observations, or basically lack of observations from previous images in 2016, do not provide us with enough information and do not reveal any new information, especially when it comes to its trajectory. And so we're only going to know more after James Webb observations, which will hopefully be done before April, or might not even know more until 2028, until we finally see it again once it moves closer to planet Earth. And at that point there are going to be two possible solutions. Either it's going to be recalculated to be a non-issue, or we'll have a couple of years to basically launch a mission to try to redirect it if there's a really high chance of a collision. And since we're talking about a collision producing 8 megatons of energy, this is definitely something we're going to be taking seriously.
Now, I do believe the percentages, well, it's something to be concerned about. Hitting the moon, that's a very small percentage, so I don't think that's going to happen. But they could be off themselves. That percentage can change or evolve depending on which way it's going. But I think it's more going to be about bringing something into the atmosphere
after 2028. But until then, don't panic. It's still extremely unlikely to come close to planet Earth, and it's a lot more likely to pass between planet Earth and the moon. But once we have some more updates, or once the impact probability changes once again, we'll come back and discuss this more in some of the future videos. Until then, check out some of the previous videos on the same topic in the description below.
Now, have they really seen it? Here's the other question. Have they seen it? Is this really an asteroid coming, or is this a mothership from Kolob? Is it something else? Is it, and maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys, let me know. Educate me in the comments section. Is this something that you're concerned about?
Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Share this with someone who loves remote space.
Okay. I'll leave you the link. Either way, things will happen, brothers and sisters, because there are various interpretations of what stars falling from the sky means, and even various Christian denominations. Now, remember, a lot of what we talk about, believe, and I'm not talking about true doctrine or things that have been established as doctrine, but theologically, we have taken on traditions from the other Protestant faiths, not just our hymns singing. You know, they didn't sing hymns 2,000 years ago in Israel or here in America in the Book of Mormon. We sit in pews. You know, we do things traditionally as well. There are traditional interpretations of what this might mean. There's the literal interpretation, seeing it as a physical event that will occur right before the second coming or during the second coming of Jesus Christ. And that aligns with biblical prophecies, such as found in Matthew 24:29 and Revelation 6:13.
A little house cleaning. The Firm Foundation Expo, featuring the 35th International Book of Mormon Evidence Conference, is coming up, faithfully exploring relevant LDS topics of our time. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., April 17th, 18th, and 19th. That is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 2025. And where will it be? It won't be at the same place that we went to last time. No golf courses this time. But it will be at the Conference Center at Miller Campus, Salt Lake City, actually in Sandy. Y'all know where Sandy is. That's where my mission home was in 1992. 9750 South 300 West Sandy, Utah, 84070. The Gail Miller Conference Center, main stage, soft seats in raised auditorium, building 3 MFEC registration, main speakers and vendors, building 2. KGMC, breakout speakers and vendors. Details, call Ryan Nelson. Yes, your friend and my friend. Yes, that guy that we all see when we come into the front entrance. His name is Ryan, and his last name is Nelson. Call him at 801-931-9031. That is 801-931-9031. The 35th Book of Mormon Evidence Conference, and I will be there. Okay. Let's get started. Critics argue that literal interpretations overlook the symbolic nature of apocalyptic language. And I think we tend to forget that there is symbology, that prophets and apostles spoke metaphorically a lot. And we overlook that, even as Latter-day Saints, because we want literalism. Literalism is more fascinating. It's fascinating and tickling to the ears to have these apocalyptic overtures, these cataclysmic events. Now, I'm being vague because I don't want everybody to get up, unravel their brains and get into a hoopla in the comments section, because that's not what we're doing here. But we can't overlook apocalyptic language, brothers and sisters. We can't do that. But it's not impossible for things to physically hit the earth either. So if I'm looking at these scriptures like in Matthew and Revelation, the book of Revelation, and Isaiah, Isaiah spoke metaphorically and symbolically a lot, even about the lost 10 tribes. I would think there's no other way really to understand this. I would take these things literal, the stars falling from and signs in the heaven. The only thing I can think of is if it was speaking metaphorically, in my opinion, is fallen angels or the stars falling from the sky, meaning in the last days. Are we speaking something demonic? Is it symbolic for the third of the hosts of heaven being cast out of heaven? But where does that fit in apocalyptically with the last days? Could it be something holy, like in the last days, angels will be ministering to the earth, stars falling from the heavens? That's iffy, right? That's iffy. So if you're interpreting these symbolically, like the signs of divine upheaval and chaos and judgment, then you're looking at this as though that these themes represent chaos and societal disruption. The Catholics and Eastern Orthodoxy are very similar in their views. With the Catholics, the views also represent a metaphoric language about chaos and divine judgment, highlighting societal disruption. Eastern Orthodoxy, similar to Catholic views, might interpret such imagery as spiritual or cosmic events rather than literal physical occurrences. So you have those two. And then you have the Preterists. And I think that we tend to overlook the Preterist ideas as Latter-day Saints. And we do. And you might be saying, well, what does that mean? That means we're too stuck on literalism. That means we're too stuck on something has to happen in the future. Everything that was said in the Bible is supposed to occur again. Is that so? Am I wrong? Let me know. Is everything a type of something? Is everything a type and a shadow in the scriptures? Or did some things or were some things just meant to happen one time? And maybe not even meant to happen, but Christ just said this is going to happen. And things that we thought were going to happen or are going to happen in the future might have already happened, like in 70 AD or somewhere in the last 2,000 years. That's not unfathomable. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that things are supposed to repeat themselves, because they are. To give you an example, Preterists believe, and that's pre meaning before, duh, right? But an example would be a lot of Preterists believe that, for instance, the stars falling from the sky happened, and the signs in the heavens might have happened 70 AD or somewhere in the last 2,000 years, and that they were already fulfilled in the first century, particularly during the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. They see these events as symbolic of the end of the Jewish era and the transition to the Christian age. Before I forget, brothers and sisters, if you are enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ding the bell for notifications. Your support means the world to me and helps the channel grow. And hey, if you want to contribute to the program, I do prefer Venmo first, then Cash App, then PayPal, then Zelle. And I've got cool products. I got cool merch. That's all being designed. I get a percentage of it. And that's if you're interested. Remember, your comments are what keep this community thriving. So drop your thoughts below. And if you're feeling extra generous, consider becoming a YouTube member or sending a thanks, a super thanks right there. The button's right below the screen during our videos. Now back to the topic. And that didn't happen too far after Christ was making these predictions, like in Matthew 24. Around 250 years later, after the apostles were dead, except for John the Beloved, and maybe there's an apostle we didn't know about, you had the Nicene Creed. When was that, like 360 AD? I can't remember. But around 300 and something AD, Constantine and all those guys were already coming around. And then after that, here comes Charlemagne. Very interesting. So Christianity never left the earth. And that's interesting. I mean, how many things have already occurred? But then you guys, and not necessarily you guys, but some people would say, yes, but they're supposed to occur again. That these are things to come. That even Christ said in Matthew 24, he speaks of the abomination of desolation that Daniel spoke of. Yes, he does, but he might have been speaking about that happening within that century too, as well. Does that have to occur again? I'm of the mindset personally that yes, most of these things, most of them are types and shadows. I believe that wholeheartedly. It's just the way things work. Even in the Book of Mormon, you had an Antichrist named Jacob. It's mentioned very briefly, but it was one guy, and it was right before. It was during that 5-year period, I think, when Samuel the prophet, Samuel the Lamanite was. We call him Samuel the Lamanite, but I prefer to call him Samuel the prophet, because it doesn't matter if he was a Lamanite or Nephite. He was a prophet of God. But Samuel the prophet, that sounds better, doesn't it? People say Samuel the Lamanite. Let's call him Samuel the prophet. I think we should change that. I'm going to talk to the prophet about that. But yes, things are mostly to occur again. But which things already did happen. Not everything is supposed to happen within a tribulation period either. So things could have happened 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And then you have eschatological interpretation. Dispensationalist views often see the falling of stars as future things to happen, as catastrophic events leading up to the second coming of Jesus Christ or during the second coming of Jesus Christ. I would say most of you are dispensationalists, no pun intended. I call my channel members dispensationalists. This is interesting that we're talking about this, because there are things that we just might want to hang on to, and we could be wrong about those things. And I could be wrong. Maybe all of these things are supposed to repeat themselves. Some of them might have already happened, some not, and some of them maybe yet have to be fulfilled. But when they have to be fulfilled, what they are, and when they are, where they are, where, when, what, and why is up for interpretation a lot. Be careful when you say, no, there's certain things that have to be fulfilled yet. Well, I'm not a prophet, so I don't know. And you don't have to be a scriptorian to be a prophet. No, you just have to listen to the Lord when he's giving you signals. And I think that's what prophets do, is they listen and look for signs and signals and fillings by the power of the Holy Ghost. They are receiving revelation the same way you and I do. They're just receiving it for a larger group of people. That's their calling. If you're receiving it for your as a primary president, then you're receiving it for the people that you have stewardship over. The prophet has stewardship over the world. And by the way, I want you guys to take a look at my views and don't go away. Don't go away. I'm not whining. I need you guys to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps a little bit and help me. If you're a diehard fan, first start by subscribing and then hit the bell for notifications. The next thing you can do is share my content and go in and watch a few things. Share some of my older videos. Maybe take a time if you're not doing anything and you want to look at some of my old stuff. Dig in. There's a feast. I've got 1,100 videos that I've done in the last 6.5 years. 1,100, something like that, give or take. I've got a lot. That's a lot of videos. I've got playlists. I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got videos on the second coming galore, on the third temple galore, on the two witnesses. I talked about everything. I talked about the 12 tribes of Israel, the lost 10 tribes, everything. Go watch everything. And it helps. It helps my view count. But here's the deal. And I'll move on. But my interactions are high with you guys. My engagement is high. My comments, my thumbs up, everything. I generated this through AI and it said there's a discrepancy. You should be getting more views. You should be being recommended. You're not, my engagement's high. My impressions are low. My impressions should be high because of my engagement. That means YouTube or the algorithm has a filter on it. It's not being recommended. Anyway, so all I'm doing is I'm taking a brief moment to ask you to get it out there. Whatever you do, contact you, whatever you do, get me out there. Let's get going. Because if you look at my last few videos, any other LDS podcaster out there that puts out the same stuff would get a different result. Moving on. Get it out there. Put it on your social media account. And thank you. And if you want to become a member, they take $2.99 a month out of your account to help the channel. So anyway, you've got the dispensationalist view, and then you've got the amillennial and post-millennial ideas of what's to happen, or what did happen, or what is happening. These perspectives tend to interpret apocalyptic language more symbolically, focusing on the spiritual and the societal implications rather than the literal cosmic events. So what say you? Let me know in the comments section. And here's why I brought this up, brothers and sisters, because we just don't know what we just don't know.
And we don't know what we don't know. That don't make no sense.
But I said this because our prophet could be right. We could be close, whatever that means. Close could be 50 years from now even. And we're preparing. Maybe the Lord wants us to get a good head start before he comes. So he's going to be warning us for the next 50 years. Or it could be in 5 years. Anyway, God bless you. And that's it, I think.